Welcome back to Model Citizens, the podcast where we unpack how the engines of technology are quietly rewriting the rules of our everyday lives. I'm Kareem Saleh, the founder and CEO of FairPlay. For about 30 years, online shopping has basically worked the same way. You want something, you search for it, you click through a few sites, you compare, you read the reviews, you put it in a cart, you type in your card number, and you buy it. You're the one doing the work, you're the one in the driver's seat. But that's all about to change. We're entering a world where you don't do the shopping, your AI does. You tell an agent what you want, it goes out, researches the option, weighs the trade offs, finds the best price, and checks out on your behalf. No tabs, no carts, no card number. You set the intent, and the software does the rest. It sounds like a small convenience, but it's not. It's a rewiring of the entire retail experience. Who discovers products, who controls the transaction, who owns the customer, and who's accountable when it goes sideways. When the shopper is a piece of software, almost every assumption we've built the last 3 decades of e-commerce on is suddenly up for grabs. And the biggest players in payments know it. AI platforms, payment networks, retailers, they're all racing to figure out the rules of the road before the road gets built underneath them. My guest today is right in the middle of that race. Mark Hubin leads agentic commerce work at Visa, which means he spends his days on exactly the questions the rest of us are only just starting to ask. How do you trust an agent? Who's liable when it goes wrong? And who in the end is the agent working for? You or the platform that controls us? You or the platform that controls it? These are the questions I want to get into. Mark, welcome to Model Citizens.
Thanks, Kareem. Great being here.
Let's start with some agentic commerce 101. So, agentic commerce has quickly become one of the hottest topics in AI and digital commerce. In simple terms, what exactly is agentic commerce? How is it different from the way we shop online today? And where do you think we are on the adoption curve? Is it still mostly experimentation, or are we starting to see real deployments and meaningful consumer use?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and like you mentioned in your intro, you're already referring to these autonomous agents that will do everything on a human's behalf. But if we think about agentic and also why we launched our Visa Intelligent Commerce program more than a year ago, it's more about there is a new entity sitting between a consumer or a cardholder and a merchant, which is the agent. This agent can do discovery, it can fill your cart, it can potentially do your checkout, or even do post purchase actions on your behalf. And obviously, we realized a year ago as agentic platforms, AI platforms, were gathering a lot of skill, a lot of users, we realized we need to quickly make sure that we put a framework together so that this can happen in a trusted way. That if a consumer is handing their card credentials to an agent, that this is secure, that this is tokenized, that strongly authenticated through biometrics, that even instructions are shared properly from a consumer with an AI platform. So we put together a whole framework, a whole program for that, which is VIC. But ultimately, the goal is for an agent or an AI platform to securely transact on a cardholder's behalf and establish a framework for that. But we'll probably get into that. There is many tastes of agentic. There's many use cases in agentic, but also like forms of autonomy, as in, yes, very autonomous is still on our horizon, but we're also still in a landscape where we're very close to ecom. But we'll probably get into that.
So, what were your early hypotheses about agentic commerce, and which ones have turned out to be right, and maybe which ones maybe not so right? It seems to me that when a new paradigm like agentic commerce emerges, there's usually a handful of assumptions that might be seem obvious at the outset. Maybe it's that consumers will be comfortable delegating their purchases to an AI, or that merchants will embrace agents as a new acquisition channel, or that trust and payments and authentication will be the biggest hurdles to overcome. When you first started exploring agentic commerce at Visa, what were some of the core hypotheses or theories that you had about the market would evolve? And which of those assumptions have been validated by what you've seen, and which ones have surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, we started out with various hypotheses. If I would name a few, one of them would be we saw these large AI platforms and obviously thought these large AI platforms will be the participants in agentic commerce. They will drive this sort of the traffic and move into this space. These large consumer AI platforms, we all use them like the big LLMs and the dominant players here. That was number one, and then over the last year, we realized obviously this is a very complex environment where there is many expertise needed. You see the development of yes, consumer AI platforms doing retail payments, but there are also players focused on the B2B space. There are players focused on specific verticals like beauty. There are players focused on the developer ecosystem. So our first hypothesis was you have a few of these large consumer AI platforms, and we gradually started to realize this is quite a complex ecosystem of players that is rapidly evolving and also means that we need to adjust how we work with these players. That is one. I think two is around agents. We thought that an agent would go to a merchant website or a merchant web domain and would transact there, for example, using a guest checkout. And that's where we obviously thought, okay, this is an agent. It will need to travel to that website, and that's actually where there's a lot of friction and pain points because websites are not built for agents. They are built for human beings. There are many things that could break in that flow: pop-ups, banners, ads. It's not optimized for agents. So that was a second one where you actually see a lot of protocols emerging. So some of the large AI platforms have brought out their own protocols so that a merchant could integrate on their platform rather than an agent going to their website to shop. So this was a second one that's like around like the web infrastructure, maybe not being ready for agents. And the last one, we already referred to it in the beginning, is we very quickly thought we would go to a travel agent use case where you'd ask your agent, "Hey, book me a trip to Miami for $1,000 and fix the hotel, fix the flight for me," and it would autonomously take off and purchase on your behalf. Uh, that's a world, yes, we will probably march towards, but we're not there yet. Agent handling everything end to end brings a lot of complexity. And what we are actually seeing in the market right now is mostly human in the loop, where the human is still fully signing off on a specific product or service, but also merchants in the loop. So we are actually still closer to ecom than we are to autonomous, although we have a belief that we are marching into that autonomous future. So I think across many of those areas, that's where we sort of have had to rethink some of our strategy.
So, given all that, like, what are the biggest challenges you think the industry needs to solve in order for agentic commerce to really scale?
Yeah, you can take multiple perspectives here. I think if we start with the merchant side, and I already referred to them, obviously the merchant websites are not ready for agents, and this is where we spend a lot of thinking: is how can a merchant optimize that? This is where we did our recent announcement on Agent Score at our Visa Payments Forum, where an agent can actually or we do some sort of scoring for a merchant website for agents to see if there are specific things they can optimize. There's other things here around trust. So obviously, trust, that term is thrown out a lot in agentic commerce because ultimately people are going to use and trust these agents if the infrastructure and the rules behind it and the frameworks are trusted. So this is our trusted agent protocol that we launched is mostly about if an agent goes to us and we onboard them and we vet them and we certify them, we can put them in a directory. And then once they're in this agent directory and they're a trusted agent there, and they go to a merchant website and they send some sort of signature, a merchant then knows, hey, this is an agent that has been vetted and trusted by a established entity like Visa. I can let them in. It's coming to browse. It's coming to pay. So solving for that side of the merchant ecosystem and like the trust point there is quite important. Um, if I then take the other perspective of the banks, that's where we spend a lot of thinking about how can we share indicators with banks? How can we let them know this comes from this specific AI platform so that they can inform their risk and fraud systems? We spend a lot of thinking on how can this card be enabled in an AI platform in a frictionless way, but in a secure frictionless way. And there's a lot of work also that needs to be done on enabling the more of the ecosystem and the bank ecosystem side. But as you know, it's a complex ecosystem and with a lot of challenges that need to be solved for.
Well, so given those challenges, what should organizations be doing now? Like, what are the most important things that companies should be focusing on today if they want to be ready for this shift towards agentic commerce?
Yeah, so I think on the merchant side, it's obviously it goes two ways, right? You need to solve for agent shopping on your web. You also need to think through how is your product catalog, for example, uploaded across all these AI platforms, and there's multiple ways also to do that in a real time way. So um, there's challenges there that need to be solved for, and then like I said on the issuing side, if you look in the future and you issue cards, there are these AI platforms that are connected to certain use cases and to certain merchants. Have you thought through your top of wallet strategy on that side, on top of working and fixing everything operationally and that everything goes smoothly there? Um, that is where we work a lot together with our closest partners to enable that. And I want to put a caveat on that, that we are still very early in this. This is a rapidly evolving space. We see new announcements being made by ecosystem players every month. So, in terms of preparedness, I think you can't be ready right now because you don't know how things will evolve in the near future. So, also having a strategy that takes that into account is essential there.
Mm. You know, one question that I think is on everybody's mind is what happens when a good agent makes a bad call, right? Forget fraud for a second. Just picture a perfectly legitimate agent doing exactly what it was asked, that still buys the wrong thing or locks a consumer into a fee or a subscription that they didn't really understand they were agreeing to. Like what happens then? Who's on the hook? Is it the consumer, the merchant, the platform, the network? Like, what recourse does that person have? And how do you design for moments of consent, so people genuinely understand what they're handing their agent the permission to do?
Yeah, I mean, this is all part of the key way how we have designed Visa Intelligent Commerce, as it runs on a token infrastructure. We have these so-called agentic tokens. They are e-commerce tokens that carry agentic indicators, but the fact that it's not a raw pen is already the start of being making this a way more of a secure experience. Those tokens you can scope. You can set a max amount. You can set an expiry on the mandate. Say, for example, you ask your agent to do something in the future, but it's 300 days from now. We don't want that to happen. You want that to be scoped to a certain amount of days and to a certain amount, so it can't exceed that amount. That's already great about working on tokens, and why we put a lot of emphasis on making tokens the foundation of how we work in agentic commerce to already avoid some of the errors that happen there. If we now think about the consumer experience, um, there is strong authentication required in order to go through a transaction like this. So that would be through an OTP or the issuer side step up or some form of biometrics that you do in order to sign off your intent. And getting to that now, having a specific intent being presented back to you as a human is very important, combined with the previously mentioned token and the strong authentication. You sign off on that intent. These are already all measures put in place to make sure that you avoid and try to avoid errors as much as possible. Or in addition to that, obviously consumers will be shown by the agents some form of disclosures or terms and conditions. And then obviously, we're very early here. We haven't seen the data yet at a scale and at an autonomy that we can already act on this. But obviously, we will monitor this and we will try to make adjustments with all our partners and with the entire ecosystem to drive towards a world where there is not or agent errors are minimized to the furthest extent. Right now, we're still, like I said, human in the loop, and you're still selecting the product, so there's not much proneness to agent errors. Um, but we are trying to design every part of our framework in a way that we can minimize that.
So as you look ahead and fast forward 3 to 5 years, what does agentic commerce actually look like in practice? Like, which parts of shopping and paying do you think will change the most, and which will stay surprisingly human? Do you think consumers will keep playing the role of human in the loop? And what do you think the industry and consumers and regulators are still understanding about where this goes?
Yeah, so that many years in the future is very difficult. As in, if you would ask me 6 months ago how the agentic landscape would look like today, it would actually be very different. So um, it's hard to predict. I think we're taking a step back. We're in a new shift of commerce. So we went from commerce to e-commerce, from e-commerce to mobile commerce, and from mobile commerce now to agentic commerce. Every time we've had a shift like that, there are certain pain points introduced. This pain point, like I already mentioned a few times, the word trust keeps coming back. The pain point here with delegating intent, delegating execution of a purchase to an agent, it sits all in that trust ecosystem. A lot of the technologies to solve for that problem are already there. We have biometrics, we have passkeys, tokens, we have wallets. There's a lot of technologies already out there that, if they are combined in the right way by the right players in the ecosystem, it will probably converge to a point where we solve for this problem introduced in agentic commerce. So in 3 to 5 years, I have all the trust that that has come together. Um, but also, if I would pick like an interesting, nice technology where we'll see a lot of innovation happening, it would mostly be on the developer side of the ecosystem. So um, everyone in San Francisco uses Cloud Code or Codex or these vibe coding tools. And obviously, if you're gonna create your website or generate an image or generate a video, developers can now quite easily do a lot of those tasks. But if there would be a purchase sitting behind that, like paying for a service, paying for an API in an automated way, um, that is very interesting. That's where we launch our command line interface product, where we would give an agent a wallet to do such transactions. But I think from that developer ecosystem, we'll see a lot of, or a big push towards autonomous use cases, and I think that's definitely a space to watch with very interesting and exciting developments going on.
Mark, thank you. This has been a fascinating conversation about agentic commerce, trust, and what happens when we start delegating more of our economic lives to robots. I think if there's one takeaway from today's discussion, it's that the future of commerce isn't just about making transactions faster or more convenient. It's a part about how much authority we're willing to hand over to the machines and making sure those machines are actually working in our interests. Mark Hubin, head of agentic commerce at Visa. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to all of you for listening. I'm Kareem Saleh. This has been Model Citizens. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.